Yeah, precisely. In that 1v1 matchup with the J4, it's just not the strongest until he can get some items under his belt. You know, the Hydra is fantastic for him.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Solo King 1v1 tournament featuring all of your favorite Korean players from Champions this season. Of course, brought to you on Azubu TV. My name is Rapid. With me is Achilles, and we're getting into our first game of the night. First best of 3 series between Bengi, SK Telecom T1, and Peanut, sub for Najin EM Fire.
Yeah, and we are underway. As we can see, Bengi already fast on his way into this mid lane, which is the primary spot of play for these 1v1s. As we can see, Peanut working his way over as well. Both opting to start with crystalline flasks. A little different though, Bengi going for that scout rather than the regular ward totem.
Oh, there you go. First blood already. Should be seeing. Oh, second acid hunter gonna hit there. Now, anytime you're casting an Urgot game, you always have to, like, you know, put your I graduated from shoutcasting school hat on and remember all of his moves. Because every single one of them, I feel, has like 16 different syllables, and when you're in the heat of the moment, you're not really going to say, well, Achilles, he just won that fight because of his Zon-touched bolt augmenter, or similar things like that. So we're going to have a little bit of fun remembering Urgot's moves, but versus a Nidalee too, and it does appear as if this will be a bruiser Nidalee, starting with 0 ability power, but 70 AD. Peanut's going to be looking for that early game power rather than those late game spears.
Yeah, and he's just got to be careful because of the terror capacitor. Going back to these names, I have to remember. He has got to be careful of that terror capacitor coming in from the side of Urgot, which gives them an added shield, making him a bit tankier. So he's just got to play this very cautiously, get those spears in for some harass, and then leap in and do his rotation with that takedown. We'll have to see how this is going to go so far. Just CSing back and forth, no real aggression coming out from either side.
Now, range versus melee, at least when Nidalee is in Cougar form, is primarily going to be looking for aggression. So anytime you see Nidalee in Cougar form, that's when she's going in to put down some really big damage. However, you're probably going to see both a range versus range matchup, just because it does make CSing a little bit more accessible. So for level 2 versus level 2, you're going to see already corrosive charge hitting on Nidalee and taking her down below half HP, and you're gonna have to hit as much sustain as possible here for Peanut if you get locked on there.
Yeah, and one of the big things to keep in mind here is because of Urgot's passive, that's on-touch bolt augmenter, every time he lands an auto attack or an acid hunter on his target, he reduces their damage dealt by 15%. But as we can see, he's already going hard, and he is ripping through Peanut right now, taking him down. Yeah, 15% already. Bengi just absolutely ripping through Peanut.
Yeah, anytime you get locked on there, it's just there's no way to dodge that. The counterplay is extremely limited. You see Peanut forced way behind that mid lane turret. Gonna have to do a little bit better job at avoiding that lock on, because otherwise there's just no counterplay to dodging acid hunters.
Yeah, and as we can see, he's already getting zoned out quite well. Bengi doing an effective job of playing forward in the lane, and he's already establishing a CS lead. Now 17 to 10, and he's pushing in under the turret. This is going to be his chance to get in some extra damage here and really establish just kind of his, his foothold here in this matchup.
Now, one thing that Nidalee does do is CS very well under turrets. So we're going to see if there's any CS missed here, and it does look like one CS miss so far. A couple more coming in there, but at the same time, a lot of pressure being put on Peanut right now underneath this turret. Gonna eliminate some of his CS as it dies to that turret, and it's actually doing a really good job at keeping the CS up as even as possible. Pushes this minion wave in onto Bengi, and so he'll be able to get off a couple of free auto attacks, but sustain advantage is with Bengi.
He's going to have to play this very carefully. He still has his health potions, but as you can see, he's burned through his crystalline flask, and he's also already low on mana. These auto attacks from Bengi are just starting to really do damage here. Peanut going to have to play very cautiously, maybe take an early back, but he runs the risk of falling even further behind in CS and possibly getting some severe damage onto his turret. As we can see, Bengi, He does land Noxian Corrosive Charge, but not able to follow up with any Acid Hunters, as he has also run himself out of mana. I suspect that we will see a tier built for him on his back. If it comes to that, you never know what's going to happen here with these matches.
Yeah, and especially you have to take a look at the summoner spells, which is probably something we should have gone over a little bit earlier, because they really dictate how you're going to play your game. For Bengi, he just wants to make sure that he knows the only way that he's actually going to die is when Nidalee either hits a spear, gets that hunt mark on, and then dives in for the execute with that takedown. And so it's very telegraphed whenever Nidalee is going to come trying to kill you. That's why he brought the exhaust. So he theoretically will be able to defend very well against that all-in. It doesn't help your sustain, it doesn't help anything else, just going to defend you against that Nidalee all-in. But both laners have actually brought teleport, which means that we shouldn't see this game end before each one of them have a chance to head back to base. But already you can see Peanut putting down a lot of early pressure onto Bengi, kind of winning out that sustain war in the end, pushing Bengi out of his turret.
He's got a decent amount of damage on the turret. We saw Bengi started to go back just a couple minutes ago or so. Opted to go ahead, stick around in lane, not wanting to fall behind. He's working dangerously low here, but he does have the mana advantage over top of Peanut. Peanut's, unless he can land that spear, his engage is very lacking at the current moment. You see Bengi really just playing it safe and operating underneath of his turret, using that Acid Hunter to pick up the CS. Overall, fairly passive game. We've seen a bit of poking back and forth with auto attacks, but no real engages thus far. Bengi gets that lock on.
The lock on actually hurt him a little bit. He missed a couple of CS because of it, and is still taking damage to his turret just little bit by little bit. Pretty decent CSing here by Bengi. He's actually managed to pick up the majority of that. Finally will back off onto base and shouldn't actually lose any HP for taking a trip back to the fountain.
Yeah, and Peanut taking advantage of this. He sees that Bengi went back. He's going to try to get as much CS and as much of a push as possible before Bengi starts channeling in that TP. As we can see, he's going in right now.
Very interesting here by Bengi. He actually went back to base and picked up a Brutalizer. This is the very first Brutalizer of the solo king, because traditionally going for just Doran's blades, it's so much more cost effective to get extra HP as well as damage. And now with Brutalizer, you're going to get a whole lot more damage, but you get 0 HP with that, so still actually pretty squishy. And we already have seen Bengi run out of mana relatively quickly beforehand. No Tear of the Goddess, no extra mana coming in here, but you can just see the effectiveness of this Brutalizer. There's just no way that Peanut can trade damage right now, even with Ninja Tabi picked up. First boots buy of the tournament as well.
Yeah, really interesting choices here, because the Ninja Tabi's just not going to do much in the long run, because most of Bengi's damage is coming out of these locked-on Acid Hunters. It's a really interesting decision here. As we can see, even underneath the turret, Peanut just not safe from this onslaught that Bengi's just laying down. Already floating around 85% HP compared to Peanut's sub 50. Not looking good so far in this item exchange.
Bengi just has so much damage at this point, and even though he's not necessarily able to harass Peanut very effectively underneath the turret, Bengi does land that hunt, but there is the swap underneath the turret. It pops Bengi in a little bit of danger, but he's going to pick up the first blood. Of course, the only blood here of this tournament. We're going to get a quick instant replay. Walk us through what happened.
Yeah, so as you can see, Peanut just really goes ham, tries to aggress in Cougar form, but he just gets exhausted out immediately. The hyperkinetic position reverser comes out from Bengi, and combined with those Noxian Corrosive charges and the Acid Hunter, he's able to just work him down. He tries to get to safety into that bush, but it's just not able to happen. Bengi 1-0 in this best of 3.